Namaskar. As we said in the morning, we are elaborating on the issue which we raised in the morning, relating to the former army chief. Our primary concern in this whole matter relates to the way in which institutions are being undermined, relates to the way in which this government, completely oblivious of the criticisms which are being levelled at it, repeatedly tries to undermine, dilute, sort of defame institutions which are very critical to the national governance. They may be institutions such as the CVC, about which all of us remember and recollect that in spite of and notwithstanding the written objection that the leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha, Srimati Sushma Swaraj, had raised, this government insisted on appointing an official on whom the allegations hadn't been cleared by them. So that is one very blatant way in which the government wanted to bulldoze its decision, even though the question was of the inappropriateness of the appointment. And subsequently you saw a running commentary being provided by the government, its ministers, secretaries and party office bearers of the Congress party, which is the ruling party, and with great sense of hesitation but with sense of responsibility, even once by the Prime Minister, raising questions about the functioning of a constitutional authority such as the CAG. You saw the way in which consistent attempt at maligning or undermining or diluting or even questioning the authority of the CAG happened. And then you saw earlier this year, maybe about 4 or 5 months ago, I remember very clearly the BJP repeatedly taking up this issue of how using a CBI, whose credibility by then had been questioned several times by not just BJP, but by many parties, using the CBI, an important and critical institution such as the Intelligence Bureau, IB, was being brought out. They were trying to unravel, as it were, the IB. IB, which is very, very critical as an institution for keeping the internal security and even to an extent the external security intact. The BJP cautioned this government, saying it's not time appropriate and it's not even appropriate in any sense to unravel like this in the public operations of Intelligence Bureau to a large extent where secrecy is a given mandate. You saw that happening. Now again, through something which was available in the hands of the government, the Board of Officers recommendatory report, investigative report of the military, which looked into one wing of the military intelligence, a division, and gave the report even by March, and even as it is reported in the media, several steps were taken up. Whether they were adequate and appropriate, I am not getting into it. But certainly the government had started working on, as though some action taken is happening on that report, and if indeed action were being taken, I would want to believe that they were absolutely critical actions. Why is this coming up now? You are taking action, you are also finding it appropriate to go further. You could have gone further to take action against anybody whose intention or activities were malified. Nobody could stop you. Action could have been intensified and taken to a logical conclusion. Nobody could have stopped the government. But no, action was reported. Today's coverage also shows the various stages at which the former Defense Secretary before demitting his office, he had also taken some action. Now if all this is happening, today to tell that the CBI will look into it or more exposés come out and therefore we'll take action now, doesn't convince us. It doesn't convince anybody other than the fact a lesser, more obvious fact will always be taken up. Is it the question of timing? I am underlining it is lesser, and lesser in the sense of the seriousness of the kind of allegations which have been leveled here. The timing is a lesser and more obvious fact that yes, the former chief was seen with Shri Narendra Modi in a public rally which was meant purely for the ex-servicemen. And therefore the presence of the former chief, I would have thought, is a natural consequence. But to have to hound is nothing new. I've already laid the various set of, hounding or bringing under pressure various constitutional institutions. So this is not one-off. And as regards military operations, I'm not getting into greater depths, but it has got to be placed in its context. The source operations, funding, raising and disbanding units, or even other things which the defense would do, armed forces would do, are all part of their operational matters. And every army anywhere in the world would have such things on their record, off their record. And entirely it is the Defense Ministry and its prerogative to look into it. But Indian Army's credentials in the last 60 years in free India has been a record of great esteem and pride which all of us Indians value. And unlike some armies in our neighborhood, they have very clearly functioned, proudly at that, functioned under elected governments. They have served under elected civilian governments. And if now an allegation is being brought into this whole, this whole matrix of allegations, that they also conspired to topple an elected government, it is very serious. It is a very serious allegation, and that is why I repeatedly say the timing and other things are all lesser issues. What exactly are we trying to do? What exactly is this government trying to do? Can there be a greater way in which you can demoralize an Indian armed force which has sincerely and with sense of pride served under elected civilian governments, unblemished record, if anything serving the democracy, a parliamentary democracy, has a blemish on the Congress party when it brought in the emergency in this country. But the Indian armed forces has never ever conducted itself in such a way that you have to look a second time as to what are they up to. They have conducted themselves with exemplary pride serving under elected civilian governments, unlike some armed forces in the neighborhood. And it is this allegation which makes the whole thing absolutely worrisome. In fact, a minor comparison, how does the NTRO function? Doesn't it have an element of secrecy? Justifiably? And therefore, the BJP today cautions the government that they don't go too far in this, and that they should actually come out and say what is their position. This is not the first time, particularly as regards this general who is now retired. We had earlier some exposés also, probably through the same paper or any other paper, about how certain units had come very close to Delhi and so on. I think it is high time Government of India came out, explained its position on this matter today in the light of this expose and cleared all apprehensions which are being thrown around. Neither the army would want it because the morale is a very, very serious component. Nor do the public of India want it because even the recent surveys which have come out have shown that if there is one institution which people of India trust, it is the army. That has come out recently and so many times, and rightly so. I think therefore the BJP would like to caution the government on this matter and ensure that they come up with a clear statement so that the morale of the army is kept intact and the people of India understand what actually is going on. So that's about the issue of the general. Today we had the RBI governor come out and give us information on the quarterly review, which is normal course done every September, every quarter. I have very few things to say on it, but the one thing which I'd like to underline here is the government again has been left to walk alone. I'm borrowing the word of D. Subbarao and probably the word of P. Chidambaramji earlier, that the government has been left to walk alone to face the challenges of growth. The Reserve Bank, looking at the monetary policy, has taken its call, its own independent call, I suppose, which of course is going to result in home loans going up to some extent, car loans going up to some extent, all of which will have a bearing on the middle class. And of course it will have a certain cascading effect in keeping the inflation as it has been in the last few years. And when I borrowed the words of Subbarao, I also would like to borrow one more observation of the former Reserve Bank governor in underlining the point that the BJP would like to present today, that this government has misread the economy. They have not only messed up the economy, but they are also continuously misreading the economy. And as a result, the RBI governor has very clearly said that they are anti-inflation, that the RBI is anti-inflation. We would like to ask the government of India, are they too, or are they allowing the inflation to do what it wants, and are they just not going to take anything to control it? RBI has stated that it has taken its call being anti-inflation. What has this government done to control inflation? Thank you.
Bala bhai, let's go.